It's Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Canceling attacks, Mangione catches a break for now, and something we should never ever take for granted. Next on the AM Update. Big news or something on the Iran front. President Trump posted this on Truth Social yesterday afternoon. Quote, I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Saud, and the President of United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for today, and that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that, in their opinion, as the great leaders and allies, a deal will be made which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond. The deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. So on a random Monday, just totally random Monday, apparently President Trump, once again, says, hey, Iran's ready to negotiate. Iran's ready to negotiate. We're going to hold off on attacking. No. Nope. Don't think there's a plan. Don't think there's a plan. I don't know what to say again. Trying to analyze this as best as possibly can, and I provided some analysis yesterday, maybe coming from inside Iran, maybe looking like cracks are starting to form economically, collapse starting to maybe start to be fomented. Apparently we were going to attack today again. President Trump says not because of our own intelligence, but at the request of those three aforementioned Gulf Coast countries, no attack after all. So don't think there's a plan. Don't think there's a plan. Let's go to New York. Luigi Mangione, accused of killing the CEO of United Healthcare on Monday, failed to convince a New York judge to keep a possible murder weapon out of trial evidence, though prosecutors will not be allowed to introduce some other things found in his backpack. Mangione, 28 years old, accused of gunning down health insurance executive Brian Thompson on a Manhattan sidewalk in December of 2024. Public officials condemned the killing, of course. That is not the case for all of Mangione's fan club. Yes, a fan club exists for him. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to murder, weapons, and forgery charges. His trial is set to begin in September. The ruling by Justice Gregory Caro lets prosecutors introduce evidence against Mangione of a possible murder weapon and a notebook with potentially incriminating writings. So this was packaged as a win, and I kind of teased you, as a win for Mangione. There is going to be some evidence that prosecutors cannot use against him, but the evidence that they actually can use includes the murder weapon and like a diary. So that's kind of a big deal. As I said, Mangione has a really weird, messed up fan club. Three of those women went to the courthouse yesterday where these proceedings went down and had this to say about Brian Thompson, Mangione's victim.
Brian Thompson, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I want to say. Brian Thompson, his mom. That lady said something on Inside Edition. I said what I said. I don't give a fuck.
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad and enjoy the blood money, kids.
Three, you heard two of their voices, but there were a group of three of his fan club, three women, saying F Brian Thompson, F his mother, his children are better off without him. Just weird, messed up, whack. Let's go to this. Few stories out of California. A security guard was killed in a shooting at the Islamic Center in San Diego yesterday, according to law enforcement officials. Based on preliminary investigation, police believe that two men found dead from apparent self-inflicted gunshot wounds near the mosque were the suspects. The center is the largest mosque in San Diego County. All of the children were able to be evacuated. No children amongst the victims, but three dead in what it's still unclear what precipitated this attack in San Diego at this Islamic Center, the largest mosque in that area of California. Two dead suspects, according to police. there. That was a kind of a bizarre headline to see breaking yesterday afternoon. Also in California, a very fast-moving wildfire as well. Fire ripping through Simi Valley spurred evacuations as hundreds of homes fell under threat of being burned to the ground. The wind-driven Sandy fire broke out just before 11 a.m. Monday around the 600 block of Sandy Avenue in Simi Valley. Approximately 30 minutes later, the fire had spread to nearly 200 acres and eventually grew to more than 500 acres, according to the Ventura County Fire Department. At least one home was burned to the ground. Fire may have started after a tractor clearing brush struck a rock and sparked a blaze, according to police. More than 200 firefighters from Ventura County, LA County, and Cal Fire raced to the scene, dumping water from above. That was a crazy story to watch unfold yesterday as well. What was very small fire quickly spread as north-northeast winds started blowing causing that fire to spread rather rapidly. We'll stay in California for this story as well. Governor Gavin Newsom asked about the prospect of potentially having Democrats frozen out of the gubernatorial election because of the jungle primary system. It sounds like there's a remote possibility that 2 Republicans could finish atop the jungle primary, which would guarantee a Republican would win in the general election. Faced with the prospect of his party getting frozen out of the governorship in California, Newsom had this to say, and it sounds pretty insurrection-y.
We all have agencies. We can shape the future. There's still a lot. Look, I've said this before, so I'll repeat it. I don't anticipate this need to be the case, but there is a break the glass scenario, and there's many people that have a deep understanding of what it would look like if Democrats were locked out, and we're going to do everything to make sure that doesn't happen.
So there is Gavin Newsom, California Governor Gavin Newsom, saying if a Republican gets elected, if Democrats are frozen out of the process to actually elect a new governor, says there's a break the glass scenario, and there are people who have deep knowledge of systems to ensure that this cannot happen. Being very coy while he says so. Let's go back to New York City. Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
I cannot help but think of the words of our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. He famously said, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are I'm from the government and I'm here to help." It's a good quote, but I disagree. I think 9 more terrifying words are actually, I worked all day and can't feed my family.
You know, that might be, I know he's trying to be iconoclastic there, because those are famous words from Ronald Reagan. I'm here from the government, or I'm with the government and I'm here to help, or whatever the phrase is. He's trying to be iconoclastic. He's trying to tear down those famous words. It might have a little bit more weight if some of the most left-wing of the left-wingers are starting to be dissatisfied with Zohran Mamdani, because he hasn't actually been able to deliver on his oodles of promises of free stuff for New Yorkers quite yet. And so there are some who are coming from the left who are very disappointed with him. It would carry a little bit more weight. It might be a little bit more iconoclastic if he was actually successful in his endeavor of wealth confiscation. But as of yet, he has not been. When we come back, a story of heroism, really, a story that's just unbelievable out of Idaho. Also, another unbelievable story, but a good one at that, and something we should never, ever take for granted. We'll talk about that and more coming up next. Just an unbelievable story out of Idaho. Might have said Ohio going into the break. As 4 crew members aboard 2 EA-18G Growler electronic attack aircraft were able to bail out of their systems over the weekend. Those 2 jet fighters collided during the Gunfighter Skies Air Show in Mountain Home, Idaho on Sunday in a mishap captured in dramatic videos. You just heard some of the audio there. The 4 crew members of the aircraft, the Growler Air Show team, were able to eject right after the collision and were being evaluated by medical personnel. The incident took place 2 miles northwest of the base, according to the 366th Fighter Wings Facebook page. The Growler Air Show team puts on 2 jet displays. Video of the incident showed one of the Growlers close in on and then collide with the other from behind, striking the lead aircraft's rear with its nose from above. They became entangled together, nose up and then down, before tumbling to the ground. 4 small explosions from the ejection seats blasting out of the falling Growlers can be heard or seen before the parachutes of the 4 crew members opened up. I want to tell you, this video is unbelievable. Number one, when the collision happened, it's incredible that there was an explosion right there. It's also, it kind of looks like on the video, there's a couple of weird angles, so it's kind of difficult to see. It looks like the planes kind of fly around, turn with each other, which is very interesting, kind of turn with each other before they realize, the crew members realize, hey, we got to bail out. It looks like at least one of the aircraft was upside down when the crew members were able to bail out. But the technology with these ejection seats is incredible, that they were able to go up or down and away from the aircraft, as the other crew members and the other aircraft were able to go up and away from the aircraft and away from each other. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable developments that no one was killed in that. Let's go to Texas now. Stories from the Christian Post. Headline: Texas Children's Hospital to launch first ever detransition clinic, settling a federal complaint. Texas Children's Hospital in Houston has agreed to establish the first ever clinic designed to care for detransitioners after agreeing to settle federal allegations that it billed Texas Medicaid for unallowable and illegal, quote-unquote, gender transition interventions, including the use of false diagnosis codes. The U.S. Department of Justice announced Friday that the Texas Children's Hospital agreed to pay $10 million in damages for performing so-called gender transition procedures on trans-identified minors, whatever that is, as a part of a settlement that also includes the establishment of the first-of-its-kind clinic dedicated to restorative care for detransitioners. The settlement also compels the termination of multiple physicians. So there's some accountability, people losing their jobs for engaging in this sort of wicked practice. Now, there still needs to be statute-level criminal code that would prohibit this sort of activity, this meatball surgery in the name of gender for children. But this is better. People losing their jobs over this wicked practice, and the establishment, kind of some poetic justice, the establishment of a new clinic to help detransitioners who have found out that the demonic lie that they fell for was indeed just that, demonic. You know, it's in the face of these types of stories. Well, that's a good story out of Texas. Some redemption there out of Texas, maybe. But the very fact that something called a detransition clinic is necessary at a children's hospital kind of indicates where we are, at least where we have been. Hopefully the direction that we are going, which is moving away from this demonic practice. But when you see stories like that, when you see stories from the first segment, Zohran Mamdani trying to flip Ronald Reagan's famous quip about, I'm with the government and I'm here to help. When you see stories like Luigi Mangione having a fan club after he murdered someone, assassinated someone, just because this perception that he's rich and he was killing people because of his position as an executive at an insurance company. When you see stories like this, what happened over the weekend with the Rededicate 250 event, all of those public officials, President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, who you'll hear from in a little bit, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they all had fantastic speeches at this Rededicate 250 event, which was designed, all of these speakers designed to call and hearken back to the faith that this country was founded upon. We should never, ever, ever, especially when our very high-ranking elected officials speak in such clear terms about our nation's history, about the need for the gospel, the need for faith in our country, in our body politic. We should never take that for granted. It's a small miracle when we have stories like I just detailed that we are able to witness this in person, out loud, with no fear, with no embarrassment, with no shame. It's a miracle that in the day and age that we live in, with stories like that, you can hear messages like this from our sitting vice president. Listen to this.
John Adams famously said that our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. It was obvious to the founders that our faith was the ground upon which America stands. It was our very foundation as a people. And if this foundation were to crumble, so too would the very values that make us Americans. From our religious inheritance comes many of the virtues and institutions we most cherish as a people. Our system of justice, our generosity to neighbors, our respect for conscience, and the moral discipline necessary for liberty itself. As my dear friend, the late great Charlie Kirk put it, all law reflects a morality. Neither law nor morality appears in a vacuum, but ultimately come from religion. And the morality and religion that formed the American consciousness were decidedly Christian, founded upon the principles and the divinity of Jesus Christ. In 1783, Washington also proclaimed that imitation of divine charity is necessary for the mutual affection of our citizenry and the happiness of our nation. If we do not see that God loves us, we have little reason and little inspiration to love one another. This love, which forms our morality, is the foundation of a peaceful and healthful society. That's why it's so encouraging to see a renewed sense of faith emerging among America's young people. Defying predictions, the experts said that religion and faith were dying. Today, a wave of young Americans is returning to the pews. And we know that they're looking for meaning, for authority, for direction, and of course, for closeness with God. That should give all of us hope for our future together as Americans. It certainly gives me hope as your vice president. Because prayer is not merely something we do in times of crisis. It is a continual disposition of love toward God, and through that love, toward one another, through our fellow citizens. As we celebrate 250 years, I thank you all for joining on such a happy and wonderful occasion.
Vice President J.D. Vance, his speech to the Rededicate 250 event over the weekend in Washington, D.C. And I think it is apropos to remember not to take this for granted. In general, in this country, the freedom that we have to espouse our religion, our Christian faith, to remember the faith that this country was founded upon. The freedom that we have to do that, but then also, even in the midst of some really dark, evil times, that we have people at the very top of our government who are preaching that message, remembering our Christian heritage, remembering the values, where they come from, why we get to enjoy this nation, that it didn't just happen out of nothing. It comes from somewhere. The realness of God, the divinity of Christ, as you heard from J.D. Vance there. My question this morning is, if the people at the very top of our government, the Secretary of State, the Vice President, the President, Secretary of War, an important position, if they are out and proud saying this, what's our excuse? What's your excuse? What's my excuse? The answer? Nothing. This should embolden all of us. There is hope. As long as we can keep saying this stuff out loud, there is hope. There's always hope. Even when we can't say it out loud, like there is in China, there's hope there as well. But there's real possibility when you can still enjoy the freedom to be bold in your faith, to proclaim it widely as far as and as wide as anybody will hear or listen. So, we've got no excuses. We have to be bold, and we have to be outspoken. That's going to do it for a Tuesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.